Over the last 7 years, I've built a lot of websites. Today I want to tell you about one that we built to over $10,000 per month that we sold a couple of years ago for over $300,000. And all it really took was following 9 simple steps that I'm going to show you today in this video. Now, following these exact same steps, we've helped hundreds of people earn well over $1,000 a month from their blogs. Many of them earning a full-time income, replacing their day job, earning anywhere from about $4,000 to over $40,000 per month just from their blogs. It's really exciting, and it's still working today, even for those who are just getting started. So let me walk you through these simple steps, and I'm going to use a specific website that we built as an example. The first step is to pick the right niche for your website. The example website that I'm going to talk about today is a site called camperreport.com. This is a website that we built, that we ran, that got to $10,000 a month consistently for month after month after month, and that we were able to sell for well over $300,000 a couple of years ago. And today's sites are selling at an even higher multiple, meaning we'd probably earn at least $400,000 for the same website. There's a lot that can go into picking the right niche, but it doesn't have to be complicated. One of the things that I find to be most important when picking a niche is to pick something that you at least have some interest in. It doesn't need to be the thing you're most passionate about in your life. Sometimes that thing that you care the most about, that mission that you have that drives you, that you want to do something about over your lifetime, isn't actually a very good niche to start with because it's very difficult. A lot of people want to make positive change in the world. They want to help people with motivation, with mental health, with so many of those types of things. But those are some of the most competitive niches to get into. Oftentimes I find that we can end up having the same kind of positive impact by starting out talking about specific topics. The example of this site was campers and RVs. But through the course of time, we're able to create content that helps promote active living, getting outdoors, all sorts of things that help people live a healthier and happier lifestyle. And you can start to craft content over time that directs people toward the things, your missions and goals and things in life that you want to do for people. So don't just get hung up looking for your passion. Let's look for something that you have an interest in and that you know something about. Beyond that, there are a few other things that I do look at when it comes to sort of shaping the niche that I'm creating. And for that, I want to direct you to a video playlist on this channel that's going to walk you through multiple videos that break down all the different steps and nuances and lots of tips and things that we've given over the years on how to pick a good niche. I'll put that in the description along with several other videos and playlists to give you a lot more detail for each one of the steps I'm going to talk about in this video. All right, now on to step 2. Step 2 is to actually build your website. This may be the part that's the biggest hang up for some of you, and that's going to be because doing something so technical as building a website may have never crossed your mind as something you could actually do yourself. But it's not nearly as complicated as it seems off the bat. Now, for building this type of a website, I strongly recommend using WordPress. WordPress is a platform that allows people who don't write code to be able to put together stuff and turn it into a website and launch it on the internet. There are, of course, a lot of other platforms that you can use to build websites, but WordPress is very well optimized for the type of blog or article content that we're going to be writing and publishing on our websites. But there are 2 ways that you can do WordPress. One is to go to WordPress.com, create an account, let them host the website. This isn't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what's called a self-hosted WordPress website, using software that's created by WordPress to be able to build your website exactly how you want it. This approach is going to give you complete flexibility with your website over the years, whereas using WordPress.com is kind of going to lock you in to a lot of very specific things. Now, all of this may have just gone completely over your head. If it did, don't worry. I want you to go watch another video that I have, again, link in the description under step 2, where I'll walk you through step by step how to go set up custom hosting and then install WordPress software on that hosting and be completely ready to start creating content on the back end of your website within a matter of minutes. So we're going to focus a lot more on that in the beginning, getting that content out there. And then as that content is kind of taking time for the search engines to pick it up, recognize it, trust it, and put it where it belongs in the search rankings, over that time, we're going to be able to fiddle around with specific customizations and design and such. And even then, I recommend that you keep it very simple. It'll probably actually do a lot better. Now, step 3 is going to be to figure out exactly what we're going to write about on this website. Now, we've already picked a niche, but now what we need to do is break that down into sort of sub-niches, categories of content, different topics that we would want to cover on this website. We only want to pick maybe 2 or 3 of those to start with, because we want to create a lot of content about a few things. That's going to allow you to build up authority on those smaller subjects, and with authority on those smaller topics, we'll be able to broaden what we write about and eventually cover the entire niche. Once we pick those categories, now we need to figure out specific things to write articles about. A lot of people call this keyword research. We like to call it search analysis because the idea here is to find search queries, things that people are actually typing into Google or other search engines to find content answering their questions. You see, it doesn't do you any good to write articles about topics that nobody's actually searching for. So we want to answer specific questions. And in the early stages of this website, we want to pick some of those topics that have the least competition. So when we identify search queries, we're going to want to go check and see what's already ranking when we type in those search queries. If there are not very good resources available, then we can create them. And we can almost guarantee that we're going to rank for those specific search queries. Now, we have a whole process on how to do search analysis. So once again, I'm going to give you an entire playlist of videos as a resource that you can go to learn that step in more detail as soon as you're ready for it. Now, before I go on to step 4, I want to highlight that steps 1 through 3 can happen pretty quickly. You can pick a niche as soon as you're ready for it. And in fact, I would encourage you again to not overthink it. Let's not spend weeks and months figuring this out. Let's pick something in the next hour and then maybe sleep on it for a night, but then get ready to dive in. Likewise, creating a website should be very basic. Let's get it set up and let's jump immediately to picking topics and then creating content, which is step 4. All right, so now in step 4, we're going to craft original and helpful content about the topics we identified in step 3. This is actually going to be the most labor-intensive, time-intensive, and probably difficult part of this whole process. Unless you really enjoy writing, you'll probably hit a slump at some point in this phase. That's completely normal. And the biggest reason for this is we don't get an immediate result. When you put content on a brand new website, it's going to spend several months with that content slowly getting picked up by Google, put into the search engine, and then starting to rank and get some organic traffic. Again, that's totally okay and totally normal. We're going to let that process happen while we continue crafting content and while we move on to the additional steps that I'm going to go through in this video. So what does it mean to create original and helpful content? Well, what it means is we don't want to create me too, the same sorts of things that everybody else is already creating. If you Google one of the search queries that you've picked and you find that there are some other articles out there and you essentially take what they wrote and put it in your words, it's the same thing. It's not a better resource. What we want to do is we want to craft original, meaning unique, new to the internet content, and we want to make a resource that's better and more helpful for the readers. There are a lot of ways to go about this, and one of my favorite ways is to do some sort of original research. Back to the camper report example, I want to show you this blog post. This is a blog post about how much RVs depreciate. If you Google RV depreciation, how much do RVs depreciate, as well as any number of other questions around how much value do RVs lose at various stages of their life, you are going to come across this article near or at the very top of the search results. In fact, when I searched RV depreciation just yesterday, the snippet, that's the little section at the very top where Google kind of gives the answer, came from a website that quoted the numbers from this article on Camper Report. That's because Camper Report, we did the work to do the original research. And it wasn't that hard. In this case, it was my friend and former business partner, Jim, who went through the effort of just looking at RV listings. He listed out a whole bunch of them, how much they were being sold for. He looked for ones that actually sold to see as often as possible how much they went for, as well as how much just a whole bunch of them were listed for, how old they were, and what model they were. Compare that with how much they were worth in the very beginning, and this has been the go-to resource for RV depreciation on the internet for years now. Nobody's replaced it with anything better. That is the value you get out of crafting original content, and this blog post alone gets thousands of people every single month to that website. Now, don't make the mistake of thinking you can't do that too. In fact, I've got another playlist of videos on this channel that teach all sorts of different ways to write good content. I'll teach you how to write content quickly. I'll teach you how to craft original content. I'll teach you how to write blog posts that get thousands and thousands of page views every single month organically. And I'll teach you the top ways that the best bloggers, our own writers and us included, are doing original research to be able to write unique, original, and helpful content. Step 5 is another one that people make way too complicated, and that is to optimize your website and your content for SEO. SEO is search engine optimization. It's essentially how to get content to rank at the top of the search engines. Now, there is a lot of nuance that goes into SEO. Most of the different tactics that people teach make little tiny improvements to your potential for ranking. However, if you do your search analysis the way that we teach you, that is actually going to be 90% of SEO. And most of the rest of SEO is going to come down to a handful of things that you can do within your content itself that's going to help optimize it for SEO. Beyond that, all the little technical tips and tricks and stuff that people do really are going to make very, very little difference. In fact, on many of our sites, we've essentially ignored it. And we've had extreme success because we picked topics that people were actually searching, that were mostly underserved on the web, and then we focused on crafting quality content. You see, the most important factor that determines where you rank in Google search is how relevant your content is for the user. If you write content that's highly relevant for specific search queries, and it's really the only content out there, or at least the best content out there on that topic, then you should rank number 1 for that. And we find that more often than not, you eventually do. So as you're going through step 4 and crafting your content, I do want you to keep this in mind. So I'm going to point you to another video. This is a video that I made that walks you through all the SEO stuff that you need to know about and that you need to worry about for your blog. If you watch that video, just take notes of the few things that I highlight in there that matter and incorporate those in the way that you write your content, you're going to do great. And as you start to rank for some things, especially those really low competition search queries we talked about earlier, you're going to gain authoritativeness. Essentially, the search engines are going to recognize that your content tends to be accurate and tends to be helpful. And it's going to get easier and easier to rank really fast and to rank really high, even for more competitive topics. So don't let SEO scare you away from this business model. This business model is amazing. Again, we craft content today that earns us an income for years. All we have to do is be patient and willing to put in that effort. Speaking of which, as we go through steps 4 and 5 and we craft this content, we need to be willing to be patient. This really can take several months, usually 6 to 8 months on a brand new website for that content to really finally reach where it's eventually going to rank and the level of traffic that those articles are eventually going to attain. The good news is, after those initial 6 to 8 months, new content that we write tends to rank very quickly. Today, on the websites that we own that are over a year old, we'll write an article and it will often be ranking on the first page of Google and many times even number 1 within just a couple of days. But it's really important to have that realistic view of what this timeline looks like in that first year. Step 6 is a big part of the reason for the venue that I chose for today's video. And that is because in step 6, we actually create video for our blogs. Now, this isn't something I would consider a required step, but in the story of Camper Report, this was kind of a game changer. You see, at the very beginning of Camper Report, we followed all these steps exactly. We wrote about 50 articles on the website, really kind of stopped writing at that point, but that content was good content, well optimized for SEO like we talked about, but mostly focused on creating helpful content for the reader. But for a few of those articles, we made videos and we published them on YouTube. In many cases, we took those same videos and we embedded them in articles where they were relevant to those articles. Because in fact, a lot of those videos were essentially made to support the blog content. And the really cool thing is, those videos were really helpful to the people reading the blog posts. But even more so, people on YouTube found those videos through their searches as well as just through browsing. And they watched those videos and those videos directed them back to the blog. One of the best videos on that channel was this one about the ideal length of an RV for national parks. And in it, it talks about a resource over on the website that is essentially a list of national parks with the longest RV length allowed in that park. Well, that's something you're going to want to see if you watch that video and you're thinking about taking an RV to a national park. Those videos over the years have driven a lot of traffic over to the website. And this is what's amazing about it. If you look at any of those videos, you'll see that essentially what they are is Jim sitting in a camper. He filmed those on his cell phone, didn't use a mic, didn't use any special lighting, just used a cell phone. And this was like 5 years ago when cell phone cameras weren't even as good as they are today. And the videos turned out looking fine. Mostly though, he sat there and explained a principle, explained a concept to you. Some of those videos have been viewed thousands of times, but one of them's been viewed over 1,000,000 times. The boost of traffic from YouTube, which by the way, tends to rank video content a lot faster than Google and other search engines are ranking written content on the web, got early traffic over to the website and sped up that process so that after a year, we were already getting a lot of traffic on the website. That earlier boost of traffic from those videos helped set up that website to be more successful more quickly than if we had just relied on Google and other search engines alone. So like I said, step 6 is optional. You don't have to go make videos. However, if it's something that you're even open to considering, I invite you to go watch the videos that we made on the Camper Report channel, those 9 oldest videos on the channel, and go check out the content that they point to over on Camper Report to get an idea of how to use video to supplement and boost your blog. Now in step 7, we get to start monetizing our content. A lot of people will start worrying about this way too early on. In fact, a lot of times people will worry about how they're going to monetize their website before they ever start creating it, letting that dictate what niche they even go into. The problem with this is that it's totally backwards. Once we have an audience of people, particularly a dedicated audience of people who all have at least one thing in common, which is they're doing research about your niche, trying to learn more about it. Once we have that audience, monetizing it becomes pretty much easy. For most blogs, we can put programmatic ads on them basically in an afternoon. And those ads are going to be able to earn you a really good income just by themselves. On Camper Report, we were earning in the end an average of around $8,000 to $9,000 a month just in ads. The rest of the money we earned came from affiliate marketing. If you're not real familiar with affiliate marketing, at a high level, basically it's just you link to products that you want to recommend to the readers, and if they click those links and buy something, you'll earn a commission. There are a lot of affiliate marketing programs. Amazon is the biggest one, but there are tons of others. On Camper Report, we used 2. We had Amazon and just a handful of products here and there. We didn't even really write product reviews for the most part. It was just really good informational content with the occasional recommendation of a product. We could have monetized with a lot more affiliate marketing on that site without really harming the content at all because we didn't make that the focus of our efforts. We also monetized with a specific program for renting other people's RVs, kind of like Airbnb, but for RVs and campers. That one was, again, one that we didn't push real hard, but we were able to earn a small income from that, totaling over $10,000 a month just on that one website in totally passive income. Beyond that, there were many opportunities that we considered going down the lead generation route, creating digital information products, so many opportunities that we just never took the time to tackle because they'd be a little bit more involved. And because, frankly, we were building too many websites all at the same time, and so our focus was split. That's a website that could have doubled the monetization, I think, with just another month or two's worth of work in our spare time. My point here is that there are just a lot of ways to monetize this type of content once you have the traffic. If we focus on monetization up front, then we often tend to do the wrong things, and then we never get the traffic. It's kind of like Beyonce, all right? Now, hear me out for just a second here. Beyonce at this point doesn't really have to think that hard about how she's gonna make her money. I mean, at this point, people would probably buy her fingernail clippings, right? But if you came across someone who said, I want to become the next Beyonce, you wouldn't start out by telling them, okay, but before you start, think about how you're going to make your money. Are you going to sell concert tickets or start a perfume line? It doesn't really matter. Once you have the audience, you can monetize any number of different ways. And we can pivot monetization at any point in time, but only after we build the audience. We have often said, and I still believe it's true, that getting the traffic, that's the big project. Monetization oftentimes is an afternoon project. So for when you're ready to start doing that monetization, I'm also going to link to another playlist full of content that we've created here at Income School for you for free that's just all about monetization. Now in step 8, we're going to start doing what we call industry outreach. Now, a lot of people who teach content marketing are going to tell you that from the very beginning, you need to start working through all sorts of steps, all sorts of things to build links to your website. Now, links coming from other people's website are beneficial from an SEO standpoint, but they're only part of the equation. I think so many content creators get focused on that they forget the most important thing, and that's the content itself. No reputable site really wants to link to content that isn't really good. And they also don't want to link to websites with very little content either. So we focus on that content up front, and we build a reputation through the content itself. Now that we've reached this point that we have a fair amount of content on the website, let's say at least 30 blog posts, now we can start doing industry outreach. Basically what we're doing is participating in that niche, in that industry, in the online world. We can do that through numerous ways. For example, we can get ourselves interviewed on a podcast. That's actually really easy to do. And in doing so, they're going to link from the show notes on their website over to your website. You'll get the link. But more than that, you'll have an opportunity to share your message, your story, and your information with a new audience of people. That's going to establish you as an authority in that space. Taking steps like that are going to do a lot more to build up your online reputation than any amount of link building. Likewise, I recommend becoming a source for other people who are creating content, who want to write about topics in your industry, but who they themselves are not experts in your industry. Reporters, in many cases, fall into this category. They want to write a story about this topic, but they're not the expert. They're seeking quotes from the expert. Haro, H-A-R-O, help a reporter out. This is a great place to go set yourself up as a source, and then you'll receive emails every day asking for people to provide quotes and information, maybe interviews on particular topics. You can pitch yourself as that expert and provide that quote, and then you will get a mention on their website in their article, as well as the coveted link. I think Haro is another great opportunity to participate in your industry. I also think it's really valuable to watch YouTube channels in your industry, find out what people are saying, comment on their videos, and work on meeting some of those people, potentially being interviewed in a video as well. Every little bit of participation that we do within our industry is going to help solidify your place as an expert in your space, even if today you're not that expert. To learn more about this, I want to invite you to watch another video that I'll link to in the description that talks about the link building approach as well as the industry outreach approach and how I go about doing that. And now for simple step number 9, what we're going to do is we're going to refine our content. In many cases, if you pick a niche that's fairly narrow, 100 blog posts may be all you ever write on your website. In other cases, you're going to expand beyond there further and further and further. But as we get content that's aged about a year, we're going to start wanting to look through that content and assess how we've done. This is going to do 2 things for us. It's going to give us an opportunity to refine that content, but it's also going to teach us what's working really well within our industry, which categories are working really well, and where we might want to put a little bit more content. Maybe it'll help give us an indication of categories we should be branching into as we craft additional content for the website. We want to start studying the analytics that we have to see how we're doing. I want to link you to one more video, and this is a video all about what we call the battleship method. This is how we specifically audit the content on our own websites and determine what to do with it. In many instances, content that's doing well, we're going to leave alone. But it's going to also help identify that content that, if it performed a little better, could be driving substantially more traffic to your website. And so working through that method could help you just refine articles you already have instead of writing a whole bunch of brand new ones. And in doing so, you can get substantially more traffic. Then we're just going to work through this process of completing these steps sort of over and over and over again. We'll continue crafting content to whatever point we want to when our website is doing what we want it to do. We may continue making video content. We'll continue participating in the industry, and we will continue evaluating and refining the content that we've written so that the content on your site is always up to date and performing really well for you. I want to reiterate one more time that it's important to have a realistic expectation of the timeline for this. This isn't a get-rich-quick sort of a thing. We have a whole program called Project 24, and it's named that because the goal is to replace your full-time income in 24 months. That's not something that's going to happen overnight. But the beauty of this, like I said in the beginning, is that we're going to spend those first 3 to 6 months building something that is going to, over the next 24 months, grow into this big and beautiful thing. And from that point on, it can become whatever you want it to become. I love this business model, and I love what it's been able to do for hundreds and even thousands of people who have been learning these skills and following the process that we've been teaching. I hope you'll give it a try yourself and check out some of those other videos that I pointed you to. Again, they're all linked to in the description, and I hope to see you again in my next video.